Hello everyone, good evening. Hopefully you can hear us out. If you can hear us out and if there is no problem with the audio or if you can also check out the stream pretty properly, then just let us know in the chat window if everything is good. And we will just get started in a couple of minutes. And in the meantime, please do introduce yourself. So today we will be going through the AZ-305. We will check out the examination pattern. It's the new certification. So we will see the various details. We'll also go through a few of the case studies. I will walk you through various architectures and so on and so forth. So in the meantime, sorry. So in the meantime, just let me know if you can hear me properly. And do introduce yourself. Which Azure services do you work on? Do you have any previous certification of Azure? Maybe 104 or 303 or 304. If you don't know what I'm talking about right now, then also let me know, right? So please do introduce yourself in the chat window. What do you work on? And let me just quickly see how many people are online. Okay. Yeah, session will be recorded as well. Imran, session, you can find the session recording on the same link as well. And this session is also right now live on YouTube as well. So in case you want to find us on YouTube, you can just search for Tech Scalable on YouTube. You'll find our channel and we are live there right now. And we're live on Twitter as well. So you can find me or find us on any of these platforms. Okay, so quick introduction, guys. Please do introduce yourself. Let me know about your background. And hopefully all of you are safe at home. You are doing well. Okay, so Rohani, let's get started. We have a lot of people waiting for us, so let's not keep them waiting. And let's get started.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Good evening to all of you. Welcome to today's webinar, which is on AZ-305, Designing Microsoft Azure Infrastructure Solutions. We will begin our session soon, but before that, let me just give you a quick introduction on Tech Scalable. TechScalable provides services across training and consulting domain focused on cloud, DevOps, machine learning, data science, and artificial intelligence. The speaker for today is Shivam Sharma. Shivam is an author, cloud architect, speaker, and co-founder at TechScalable. Being passionate about ever-evolving technology, he works on Azure, GCP, machine learning, and blockchain. He's also a Microsoft certified trainer. For now, I will hand over to Shivam. Over to you, Shivam.
Thank you, Rohani. And I'll just quickly close the slide deck. Okay, so everyone, let's get started, right? I will just set the agenda and what are we going to talk about and are we going to cover? And I have the secondary screen right now where the chat window is open. So whenever you have any question, please put your questions in the chat window. And there is a slight lag in the chat, so I'm getting the chat after maybe a minute, but I will be able to see your questions and I will answer those questions on the way, right? Okay, so the session is going to be so this session will be of around we'll have the session for next uh, 60 to 90 minutes. It depends on the engagement. If you are loving it, then we will extend it. Otherwise, we'll wind up in somewhat in you can say 65 to 75 minutes as such, right? Okay, so the session is about the new certification from Microsoft, the new examination which is there, which is called as 305. And sorry, let me just quickly close that. Okay. Oh, great. So, okay, great. A great start, right? So now check this out. So basically, that's the new certification. This is a new examination for the certification, which is called as Solution Architect. Now, earlier we used to have this particular certification, or to get the Solution Architect certification, you had to give two examinations earlier, 303 and 305. They are over here, these two. They are going to be retired on March 31st, as such, right? So now these examinations have been merged together into the new one, which is called as 305. So the if I just take you through the learning path before we go into any of the case studies and so on and so forth, and any of the topics and all that, I'll just quickly walk you through the learning path as such. So okay, now what will happen is, if you have not given any certification yet, then from now onwards, you have to basically have two of them, 104 and 305. So 104 is the Azure administration, and 305 is the one which is a new one, which we are going to talk about. And once you do both of these, you will get the badge of the uh, solution architect. So 305 alone will not be sufficient. You need to have it in combination with 104 as well, the Azure administration. Now, what happens if you right now you have already cleared 303, uh, and as you know that 304 is going to be expired on 31st March, then what happens is, if you right now today, it is even possible for you to go for 303 plus 305, and then it will be valid for, you can say, uh, you'll get the tag of the solution architect, and then you have to renew the certification, as per Microsoft's new norm of yearly renewals as such. Now, the third thing is, what happens if uh, let's say, if you already have 303 and 304, then it will be valid. You don't have to worry about these, in that particular scenario. It will be valid as such. Your certification or your tag will not be taken back over there. So now, one thing which is good for, one thing which is very good is, the difficulty of 305 has been greatly reduced. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or bad, or but basically, if I remember, clearing these two, I remember 304 to be pretty difficult as such. Uh, I used to sort of struggle till the last minute to get all the questions answered over there. Now what they have done is, in 305 the difficulty has been greatly reduced. I had more than 30 to 45 minutes with me when I cleared the 304, 305, and I was just chilling around over there. So the number of questions are also pretty, you can say, practical, 45 to 55. I had around 150 minutes to give it, 150 to 160 minutes as such. And the certification, the examination is not really uh, about implementation. It is about the ability of the architect to select the right solution for the right scenario. So there were a lot of case studies over there, a lot of scenario-based questions were there, and a lot of questions were there on where exhibits were given, or diagrams were there, or screenshots were there of the portal, or architectures were there, and we had to deduce the solution based on that. So that was the examination pattern, and I will just walk you through the little more details which I have with me over here. Okay, so right. So how do you prepare for it? Like, if I come to that point, like if you have to go for it, then how do you do it? So you can simply look up for this page on your favorite search browser. Now, if you just scroll down, you will find the Learn module links over here. You see this online free. Definitely, this is one of the very good method by which you can give your own. You can do the self preparation over there. So, and you can see that we have the modules over here, which are basically part of identity governance monitoring, business BCDR scenarios over here, the storage platform solutions. So data platform solutions will also be, you should be aware of them, and about the designing of the infrastructure as such. Now, apart from that, there is a particular concept from in Microsoft which is called as well architected framework. We have design principles, like baseline principles are there, and it doesn't matter what you design, where you design, those baseline design principles should be followed for your architecture to be called as a good architecture. So those design patterns are also mentioned here. Now I'll walk you through a little more details now. So I think I have the details open up over here with me. Okay, so now if you have to do it, then how do you basically have to prepare for it, right? So you will see that they have broken the entire certification or broken this examination into these modules which are focusing on the major parts of any corporate requirement. How will you do the governance and the compute solution? So governance will have a lot of details inside it. I'll walk you through all the details, and I will walk you through the case studies or the scenarios which you should be aware of to be able to solve them. And then the selection of the right compute services. So we have various, for example, if you are working with HPC, then what type of solution should you go for? When should you go for containerized solution? When should you go for app services, and so on and so forth. Uh, all those type of details will be expected to be known from the individual who will try to attempt it. Now, designing of storage and integration of data solutions over here, even you can say non-relational solutions of Azure, Cosmos DB, or the relational solutions of Azure SQL, and the data tiering in Azure SQL, the partitioning concept over there. Even in the certification, questions were around data factory as well. Like what is data factory, what is Synapse, what is Databricks, what is Azure Synapse pipeline over there, right? So the this particular one word has a huge world behind it, and there were many things over there on that. Then application architecture and access. So one of the questions were around the caching itself. How can you what is CDN, what is front door, what is how can you do the caching, what is cache aside pattern, what is the meaning of application acceleration, what is application delivery network, and how does traffic manager comes into picture, how will your various type of load balancers in Azure will come into picture, the network load balancer, application gateway. So questions were around that section of topics as well. Now, uh, if I just quickly try to recall this section over here in the authentication authorization, this is something where they had a lot of questions. So the questions were around conditional access. Questions were around Auth 2.0. What is service principal? What's the meaning of object ID, and so on and so forth. Not really object ID. It was, I think it was somewhere used in one of the scenarios somewhere. But service principal, app registration, giving permission, user delegated permission, sign in risk of the user, conditional access. What is the meaning of then from that, if I can relate to it, defender, what's the meaning of sentinel as such. So all those things were also asked. Monitoring and logging, here a lot of things were there around uh, you can say the application log analytics of Azure log analytics itself, and then how do you monitor various type of scenarios, application insights. So okay, now this is the section where I remember that questions were around the like what's the what is how many subnets should you have minimum in the architecture? What is hub and spoke architecture? What is the meaning of express route global reach, the normal site to site, point to site? What is application security group, network security group? They were design questions around the migration scenarios. If you're doing lift and shift, then what to do? Uh, SQL migration scenarios or VM migration scenarios, and in terms of continuity, how can you create the other site, whether it's how will you have that site created, when will the failover happen, and all those type of things were there. Now I also have little more details in this page as well. Now where you will find that the it looks even bigger over here in this one. So here you will notice that all the individual words are there. See, when you are going for the solution architect equivalent knowledge or the tag, then you are expected to know a lot of things. So that's why you will see that here the outline is pretty wide, but practically the certification was not that difficult. Uh, it they were asking simpler questions versus what they used to ask in the 303 and 304. 304 was one of the toughest certification in Azure. Uh, okay, now the encryption at rest. There were many questions on this column level security, row level security, TDE, TLS. I'll walk you through that part today in the session itself, right? I'll give you an understanding of what that is. So the how do you do data analysis? How do you work with relational, relational, non-relational, uh, basically semi-structured or the unstructured data itself? So how do you what is this RPO and the backup and recovery? I don't remember. I don't remember any. I don't think if there was any question in my certification on backup, but they were on recovery and HA. Yeah, definitely there were many things on HA. So local HA, regional HA, global HA. So the regions, availability zones, availability sets. So there were questions around that as well. So event-driven architecture. This is where they literally got in the event hub and the uh, and we that was there in the messaging part. There were questions around the service bus and there was a question around some sort of hybrid environment and so on and so forth. So basically that was relay. Now API integration and the cloud adoption framework, migration of databases and the network solutions and so on and so forth, and routing principles and all that. So this is on a very high level. This is what the new AZ-305 is going to have. It is lesser in difficulty than the previous two, but it is sort of doesn't want you to be having the doesn't want you to be having the hands-on or the knowledge of implementation. But what I have but practically seen that the type of questions which were there, if you don't have hands-on understanding, then a lot of those questions may not make sense. So one way around or the other way around, you really have to have the equivalent knowledge of 104, which I think somebody is also asking the chat that is it required. So yeah, that's it required. Now, okay, so what I have done here is I'll walk you through these different scenarios. Like as you know that this in this session we are all, apart from the question and answer, we are also supposed to cover the case studies and the scenarios. So I have these architectures with me. I have used these architectures in some previous maybe in any previous delivery or webinar or session or something, or maybe at client side or somewhere. So I have a lot of them available with me, and I will be also creating them whenever I need. And I'm just going to walk you through the different scenarios and architectures over there. And I will be covering the data platform side of it. I'll cover the security part of it, conditional access and all that, the network part of it. And I'll also try to cover as much around uh, the BCDR and all that. So my screen got stuck. Give me a second. Okay. Okay. Now, if you have existing working knowledge of Azure, then this is something which is pretty should be familiar to you, right? So I'll walk you through these various things. So now, in this architecture, we are trying to create a hybrid network, and we also have a hub and spoke created. So I can see one of the spoke there, but the other spoke is missing. So I'll just walk you through these various things which you should be aware of, and whenever you have questions, feel free to ask in the chat window. Now, okay, let me see if I can find it. Okay, so whenever we talk about creation uh, of any network, then the discussion basically starts from the integration zone or the hub as such, where we will be landing whenever we connect from on-premises. So you can see I have this network over here, and I have these various subnets over there. Now, minimum number of subnets for your VNet is 6. You can have more, but that's the bottom line as such. So we need one gateway subnet. Azure Bastion is the jump box service, the one perimeter subnet for firewall. So you can see I have Azure firewall over there. If you're looking for any other third party firewall as well, or Cisco's firewall, you can totally have it. You may have more than one subnet to take care of that, but this place can be replaced with that. Now, apart from this, we have the if you just count the number of subnets which are there, uh, recommended as such will be like front end, middle tier, and back end minimum. Now, the network security group is the important thing, which basically is a list of username and passwords, which will be sorry, not a list of username and password, basically a list of the source and destination and the port and the protocols over there. So you can see that we have some port and protocols over here, like priority, source IP, destination IP, who can talk to who cannot talk to who, and the actions are there, allow, deny. So based on these, you will be able to restrict the various subnets from talking to each other. Now, just FYI, you cannot apply NSG on the gateway subnet, right? I think some it was asked somewhere, maybe in the certification or somewhere, but just FYI. Now, apart from that, these simple things are there that in case we want to make the VNets in Azure are regional services. So if you create one VNet in Azure, it's gonna have machines from that same region. Like for example, in East US, we have three availability zones, so the network can extend to East US itself, cannot go beyond it. To make it go beyond it, you have to enable the peering as such now. So if I want network to network level connectivity, we enable the peering over there, and the traffic goes over the backbone network of Azure. So now you should be aware of the meaning of hub and spoke, and there were a couple of questions around that. Uh, there was some architecture of the company. They gave a scenario, and then hub and spoke was supposed to be understood and answered, and so on and so forth. Now now you must be aware of that Azure DNS also. Now in Azure DNS, you are able to create the private and the public zones over there. If your traffic is coming from outside and you would like the resolution to happen in the Azure DNS, you can totally do that, and you will be able to create your various type of records which you earlier were doing in third-party domain name providers, DNS managers. So like A record, AA records, or CNAME records, and so on and so forth. Even when you're trapped, if you want to resolve the URLs or the host names internally inside the subnet, then we have the brother of it called as private zone over there. So that is also something which you should be aware of. Now, there are three type of hybrid connectivities which happen from on-premise, right? We have first is express route. This is the one where we have the fiber optic connection. Now you cannot dig up the roads yourself, so you basically have to involve some third party. Uh, you can say not third party, maybe another service express route provider as such. So in various countries, we have various express route providers: Equinix, Level 3, Tata, Reliance, uh, uh, and so on and so forth. Megaport as well. And whenever we create these express routes, we basically have primary and secondary connection over there. So there is a primary and secondary failover line over there. So and then you should be aware of how to do the VPN based connection inside the express route. So it's the fiber optic line. And if you want a ballpark figure, then the amount of traffic which can flow over here will be somewhere around 100 Gbps. You can have plans less than that as well, but it depends on the express route provider who can support your requirement. Now, so if I want to connect from on-premises, then express route is one of the expensive method, but it's the dedicated one. Now, just FYI, express route also supports express route global reach. Like your express route provider should support that. If you do that, then you can also connect your office to office over express route. So you can eliminate the MPLS connections. So those added benefits are there, which as an architect you will have to uh, understand during the costing part. Okay, now if we have to connect from the branch office, then we have the old side to side. You just make a VPN connection on premise, put a IP address, public IP address here, one gateway in the cloud, and you connect the VPN connection. Now you can see I have one gateway in the cloud right now, but that is not exactly correct, right? Express route gateway is supposed to be different from VPN gateway, so uh, you will be able to understand that. Okay, very important thing which we also would like to understand is the meaning of application security group. Like network security groups are not that granular. They can restrict the IPs source and destination IPs from talking to each other. But what happens if you would like to go granular? Like you have multiple application servers and you would like the application servers in the front end. Let's say there is one application A and you would like to just you just want that application server A front end should be the only one which can talk to the application server A middle tier and vice versa to the or maybe to the backend also, not vice versa in that sense. So now This type of granularity is achieved by application security groups. So what's the meaning of it, and then how to go back to an SGN, whitelist, or you can say a blacklist the application security group. That is something another pointer over here. Now, if I just see if I would like to cover a couple of more things over here or not. Okay, so so this is basically what I would like you to have an idea of from the point of view of networking itself. There are many more details, and if we get time, definitely I will take your questions and I will also help you in understanding them. Okay, so this is the first scenario which I would like to talk about, the networking part, right? Now the second scenario I would like to talk about is from the point of view of security as such. Like when we and then when it comes to security, we will be talking about many things over there. So let me find the closest architecture which I have. I have filtered these out, and I may have made them some time back. So let me see if this is the correct one or not. Okay, yeah. Another pretty interesting thing which is there is called a service endpoint and the private endpoints. So the differentiation between the service endpoints and the private link and the private endpoint. Like the private the endpoints will get the IP address from the subnet range. In service endpoint concept, that doesn't happen. So what is the impact of it? What's the meaning of it? If I do it, then what happens? If I don't do it, then what happens? So those type of things are there. So this is more or less the same architecture where we are connecting from on-premises. But let me see if I can take you to the identity part of it. Yeah, this is where the interesting questions were there. So check this out. So hopefully this black background will also be readable. But yeah, okay, let's get started from here. So now there were a lot of questions around this. So when any user uh, so let's say you are part of Active Directory. Now when you try to sign in, there are risks associated with that sign in process, or there are risks associated with your user account also. So uh, now if I start from somewhere, like when you think about the risk which are associated with your sign in process, the risk can be that you may have logged in from some location which is new. You may not have, it's basically atypical travel time. Maybe you were in one part of the world, and then the request is coming from another part of the world in a very short duration. So that that very short duration is something which is suspicious. And or maybe you are trying to log in from a new device itself, or you're trying to log in from another location, you travel to another country, and so on and so forth. So because of all these reasons, the Microsoft Azure Identity Protection, it classifies your sign-in request to be having risk over there. And okay, so and these risk classifications are or of four types. You can be part of the high risk, medium risk, low risk, or no risk over here. You can see uh, high risk, medium, no, or low. Secondly, based, so this is real time, like this is computed real time when you try to log in. Now, what happens if you, let's say your password got leaked, your credentials got leaked in on the dark web, or and then how Microsoft finds that is they have a concept which is called as Azure AD, threat intelligence. Azure AD threat intelligence basically means that they have internal, external researchers, sources, companies who are giving them uh, inputs, and it also involves the law enforcement as well. Now, based on these inputs, or if they find your credentials to be to are available on to you can say pasted on any dark website or any website where the this type of activity is going on, then also they will be able to capture that information, and they will be able to uh, they will classify your user account to have risk over there. So there are three possibilities over there, like high risk, medium risk, and low risk as such. So now this computation happens offline. It's not online. Or online will be, or you can say real time will be the sign-in risk over there. So the interesting part is that okay, if let's say we are trying to log in into Azure itself or any other enterprise application or maybe another custom application which you have created, right? Whatever you have done. Now, the interesting part is that whenever the request comes, we have the capability of putting conditional access on top of it. So conditional access is this policy where we can put if then else. Like if something happens, then what else to do, right? If else, if then and else like that. Now, some few of the policies can be, let's say, if the user risk is imagine the user risk is very high, right? User risk is low and above over there, or the sign-in risk is low and above, or maybe the device is something which is not managed by the mobile device management solution of Microsoft, or if there is no anti malware installed on the device, or any different type of conditions are possible. So now, whatever the condition might be, you can put conditional access policies forcing the user to go for the MFA challenge. Uh, the MFA challenge needs to be rolled out before that. So the MFA challenge can be based on the OTPs, can be based on some authenticator application, call, email, and so on and so forth. So if the user risk is very high, if the account is compromised, then we can directly force the user to reset the password as well. And we can do that with SSPR, self-service password reset. And for that also MFA needs to be rolled out as such. So all these options are there by which the even if your colleagues they travel to another part of the world and you have designed the solution pretty properly or you have used the correct things in the correct location, then even if your colleagues travel to another part of the world for any genuine business meeting, but because of the different location, the sign-in request is right now suspicious. But then also by giving the going through the MFA challenge, they will be able to be productive and they will not be frustrated. They will not basically they will keep on continue doing whatever they are doing, and they just have to prove their identity over there. So this is conditional access and something you should be aware of. Now, apart from that, uh, yeah, but there were pretty interesting questions on the PIM as well. The this privileged identity management is part of the AD premium P2 license. So now the questions, and there were many questions around this. So if I just quickly revise it for you or recall it for you, then this the see practically what happens, either you give rights to somebody and you forget to revoke it. Secondly, or maybe you revoke it, but the rights was given to the person for longer period of time than it was supposed to be, like that. Or maybe there is a lot of hustle between or there is a lot of tug of war between when the person is trying to get the rights. So we would like the rights to be given just in time, just for just long enough for the person to be productive, and should automatically be revoked as well. So all of these things are part of the privileged identity management offering. And once you configure it, it's a pretty interesting, straightforward mechanism. Like, let's say this is where I'm there, right? Imagine this is me, this blue guy right now, and the yellow one is you on the other side. So, right, this one is you over here. So you have configured it. Now, when you configured PIM, you can configure it for any elevated Azure AD roles, like application developer or any role which is having more privilege. Or you can also do it for Azure resources as well, like any role which is having any resource which is mission critical for the company, databases, and so on and so forth, where everybody should not be having elevated access, or and nobody should be having elevated access anywhere if they really don't need it. So like Azure SQL or Key Vault and so on and so forth. So if you have enabled the PIM for it, what you can do is you can enable the eligibility for the user. Like, is this blue guy eligible for it or not? If eligible, then for how many month is it? Is he or she eligible? Then once the rights will be given, then for how much time will it be active? Like 8 hours, 16 hours, and so on and so forth. Whatever practical time you would like that to work out as. Now, we also would, what we can do is we also enable the justification as well. So the person who is requesting for the elevated access, when they log in into their Azure portal, they basically they go to the PIM, their page endpoint of their side of the PIM, and they check their roles and they click what roles they are eligible for and they apply for it. So they have to fill up the justification. It's good that we have justification. We can later on go and sort of audit it from there, like what happened and who accessed what and what was the reason for it. Now, another very interesting thing is that you can simply assign various approvals, like various individuals who will approve the request, and they can be just the manager of the blue guy over there. And later on, we can also have access reviews as well. Like if you have access, then do you need the access or not? Those concepts are, we can say, are also available in Azure if you, even if you don't configure PIM as such. So this is something which you should be uh, aware of or using. And there were questions around this. And let me see if I would like you to go through a little more over here. Okay, so I guess, yeah, okay. Let's go through this as well. So now, this is a typical cyber kill chain. And we have reconnaissance, intrusion, exploitation, privileged, escalation, lateral movement. Oh, let me see if I can just stop it somewhere. Okay, is it? Okay, great. So reconnaissance will be like if somebody's trying to find the weakness in your environments, and intrusion, exploitation. So see, the security is like an onion. It's like as many layers as you have, uh, that much secure you will be, and you are as strong as your weakest link or chain in the, you can say, link over there. So a lot of times what happens when we try to configure the environments, or when we architect the environments, or when we try to go for the best practices, uh, being a human being, you may skip few of the things. You may not be aware of what new innovative ways are there in which attack can be done. So if there is any attack which is going on as such, and so on and so forth in your environment, we have tools which will be able to identify that. So we have Microsoft Defender, which is one tool which is basically a service you have to enable. It's a paid service, but this is something which you should invest your money in, and it will monitor the cyber kill chain. It will also tell you the posture of your company. It will quantify the security in a numeric format. Like, are you more secure today, or let's say you are 30% secure today. Then if you go and do some makes any changes, then does that make it more secure or less secure? So that quantification of security is amazing, that Defender does. So now, if you have any security operations team in your company and they are experts in what they do, then definitely we have another tool called as Sentinel. And in this Sentinel, you can do the hunting, investigation, and even you can say go and find the create incidents, start the investigation of the incident, close it out. We have I think 112 connectors, maybe more now. But you can get your data from AWS, you can get your data from uh, Google's G Suite as such, and 112 more locations, including Azure and so on and so forth. So, and then the SOC, these security operations team over here will be able to uh, take care of the investigation over there. This is something which is also important from the point of view of security. Okay, so let's see if I can walk you through. Let me see if there are a few questions right now, and I will just take your questions first, and then I'll walk you through more scenarios which I have with me. Okay, so put your questions in the chat window, right? And if you're able to understand, if you're able to follow me, or if I should slow down, or if there is anything like that, then do let me know about that as well. Okay, so there are a few of the questions in the chat are around. Will the session be recorded? Yeah, yes. Okay, a lot of introductions. 305 is out of beta. It came out last week itself. Okay, so questions, please. Your thoughts, your questions, anything which comes to mind, feel free to ask. There is a slight lag in my screen, so I'm just going to the LinkedIn page directly on my cell phone, so I can see the real-time questions. Mm, okay, the major difference between 304 and 305. Major difference between 304 and 305. It's a pretty particular question. Now, okay, so okay, I'll be very honest. There was a lot of overlap which was happening between 303 and 304, and also across like a lot of things were overlapping. Like literally, same topics were there, and so on and so forth. So they have removed that overlap as well. That's one thing which is very good. And earlier, 304 used to mean anything and everything in Azure, and they literally used to ask that also during the certification time. So if you have given 304 before, they ask everything, anything and everything as such. But now I found the new certification to be slightly easier than the old one. Uh, Overlap has been removed. Can we get these diagrams here? You can get these diagrams. Most of these diagrams are already posted on my LinkedIn page. Is it mandatory to complete 104 before 305? You can go for 305, but you need to have 104 in place. You need to have it. If you don't have 104, then you will not get the solution architect tag. Okay, so let's move it and let's go through another architecture which we may have here. Okay, so let's see something. Maybe let's see what is this. Okay, yeah, a lot of questions on this. Pretty simple things, but there were many things around that. So I will just quickly walk you through it. Now, here we are basically talking about the SQL solutions. Let me see if I have the SQL also built somewhere created in this diagram or not. Okay, let's zoom out. Okay, yeah, we have SQL. So now see, there are four offerings of SQL in Azure. You can deploy Azure in SQL in Azure in four methods as such. So when they talk about relational data solutions, this is the location from where a lot of this is the discussion from this is the you can say topics from where a lot of questions came. Okay, so if I want to deploy SQL solution in Azure, basically I can make it inside a VM. I can go for managed instances. Managed instances are the hybrid between the IaaS and the PaaS solutions. These were the ones which were created, uh, you can say, in the first place for lift and shift, because we are unable to lift and shift to the PaaS solutions. They always have some changes over there. So, so you can have IaaS based Azure SQL solution, managed instances, PaaS solution, and serverless as well, right? So these four offerings are there, and then individually in all these in these offerings we will have different tiers of the solution. Like something will be you can say is it like you can say DTU based pricing, or we have pricing around the vCore based pricing and all those. So the questions are also around like the understanding of hyperscale, like what is hyperscale, what is the biggest size of database that can be created, and they don't ask the question directly. It's basically asked indirectly. So okay, now then then comes us from the securities point of view. There are many things which we are supposed to be aware of, right? Now, uh, like if so there is a first thing which comes to mind is always encrypted, like the encryption which happens at the client side itself. So you need special drivers to be there when you create the application, like edu.net drivers, and the encryption happens over here. Pretty slow, but very secure. It's the data will be only visible to the user over there. Now when and then the connection between the application and the database is basically secured by transport layer security. So this is in motion encryption, TLS. So this middle part, which we are coloring right now, this pink part, is by default enabled. Nothing can be done about it, and it's a good thing it's by default enabled over here. Now, the third thing is transparent data encryption. So this is encryption at rest. In case you export the database, let's say somebody export the database illegally, or let's say maliciously, then not sure what will be the illegal part of it, but let's say maliciously, or any attacker or somewhere, somebody got the access of it. Now, then at that in that point in time, the TD is going to help you out in, because that exported files will be encrypted. Now, there was a question over here that when you are doing TD, then what is the logic behind the key vault? Like if I want to manage my own key, then what do I do? Or if I want Azure to manage the key, then what is the default setting? So default by default Azure manage the key. And then you can also manage your own key, but you have to make the key vault, and then you have to use that, and so on and so forth. So cost will get added up, but it will be more secure. Okay, now column level security, not encryption, security over here, and row level also, if it is written somewhere in the screen. So there were a few thoughts about that. Okay, can I protect the column? Can I protect the rows from some team members or some particular business unit, or and so on and so forth? So all those possibilities are there in Azure. Secondly, uh, there were a few easy questions on the dynamic data masking as well, like uh, if let's say, what is dynamic data masking, how do you do it, and so on and so forth. So it's basically you can say you have credit card masking, phone number masking, randomize it, and so on and so forth. So pretty interesting concepts, you should be aware of these. And what is deterministic encryption, what is random encryption? This happens whenever we are talking about always encrypted, so you should be aware of that in case you would like to have a join to be created by the column which is always encrypted, then if it is deterministic, then only can you use that column for the join purpose, or for the select statement across various tables. Otherwise, if it is random encrypted, then the because the value will be totally different, you will not be able to do any join operation based on it. So that concept should be understood. Okay, and this is basically how the serverless SQL looks like, that it is doing things on demand, and everything is, you can say, cold start may happen over there. So, okay, so all these things are pretty important for 305 as well. Now, I'll just take you through the other part of the data platform architecture. I don't have any other architecture from apart from this big one, which I'm going to open. So don't get overwhelmed by looking at the big architecture, but I think more or less it covers all the components which we are looking for. Like if you remember, the part of the certain outline also talks about the event-driven architecture, and then how are you going to ingest the data in the data platforms, and so on and so forth. So this is one of the only architecture which I have right now. So IoT hubs are you can say, IoT hub was not really asked anywhere, but so let's scroll. Okay, okay, it's doing its own thing right now. So let's wait for it. So another important section from okay, my screen got stuck. So let's wait for it to come back. I'll take few questions on the way. I don't trust any exam topics and all that. Not sure, because trust your own skills. If things got changed, then you are the only one who's sitting there. So uh, practice. MS Learn. Use MS Learn. Do the practice there. Okay, so function apps and they this is something which is you can say will be their part of the in during the application design. The function apps are also part of that, where they provide the serverless way of deployment. So what are the various options over there? Can I have consumption based application function apps, or if I would like to have the function app running in the application app services, then what is the meaning of it, and so on and so forth. Cosmos DB or was part of the relational is one of the non-relational offering from Microsoft, which is distributed in nature. Uh, how uh, what are the four modes of Cosmos DB? SQL mode, sorry, document mode, graph mode, key value mode, and the Cassandra columnar mode. So you should be aware of all those modes as well. And then Event Hub, like what is the purpose of Event Hub? Like when if you are getting continuous, if you are continuously, the events are coming continuously, then you basically go for Event Hub. And when you have that uh, discrete event passing needs to be done, then we go for the event grid. So whenever you have continuous events which needs to be ingested, Event Hub, and discrete events, then event grid. So that should be pretty well understood. Okay, then stream analytics not really was there, but Cosmos DB was one of the important things. And then this is where I have Kubernetes, but Kubernetes was just we can say you need to understand when to use it, because I will show you one flow diagram of Azure, and that flow diagram is very important or useful for us to be for you. Okay, so all of these services should be pretty clear. Like when should we go for virtual machine, right? What is the meaning of Azure batch, app services? If I have microservice architecture or if I don't have microservice architecture, then what do I do over there? Uh, what is the meaning of container instances? What is Spring Cloud? Spring Cloud basically is doing amazing things, right? Because when you create function apps and you try to let's say you don't want to get logged in with the vendor, so you try to put the function app inside the function inside the container and then you run it. But when you do that, the optimization of the platform is not applicable to that function. So then you are sort of you can say you are stuck there. So then Spring Cloud, if you are working on with Spring Cloud, then basically Spring Cloud provides that decoupling. Now you may have Spring Cloud in Azure, AWS, or GCP, as wherever you want, you can have it. And then if you develop something, let's say we have Spring Cloud functions also. So if you create those Spring Cloud functions, those they are applicable in all the places. So there is no, you're not stuck because of containerization, but you are also not vendor logged in, and you can move freely across various platforms and you can adopt the cloud as well. So what is the meaning of this and all those things, right? Service fabric. Uh, there was no question on OpenShift and Kubernetes as such. So when should we lift and shift, and what is the meaning of new development over there? So these are pretty interesting things which we should be aware of. I like this particular section of Microsoft's Architecture Center because they have these very nice flow diagrams here. And if I click on any one of them, these storage services, then we should be aware of then when should we go for, okay, I think this is the one. Okay, no, not really. Select a data store. I think that should be the one. Okay, yeah. So this particular page, the Azure Architecture Center, is something which you should have bookmarked. You should bookmark this. Now, when should we go for which type of database? Why should we go for it? Uh, what is structured data, semi-structured data, unstructured data? What is data lake? When should you go for data lake versus storage accounts? Is it possible that in your big data solution, storage accounts are also applicable if you are not looking for the throughput and the unlimited storage which ADLS provides? Is it that's applicable? So then can we select that or not? So right over here. Okay, so then there were questions on synapse as well. So you should be pretty aware of synapse. That what is the meaning of synapse? What is the meaning of dedicated SQL pool, Spark clusters as such? What are pipelines as such, like the ETL ELT things can be done in the pipelines. You can then what are the components of the pipeline? There were questions around data factory elements, linked services, and so on and so forth. So you should be aware of all of these terms as well. uh, what is this warehouse over here which we have colored it over here? What's the meaning of serverless spark, and what's the meaning of the serverless uh, SQL serverless also? So that is something which needs to be understood. Okay, now I'll just see if I have any more architecture. Otherwise, I'll just take your questions and so on and so forth. Oh yeah, yeah, pretty important thing. This is pretty important. So if we have a look at this, basically here we are doing the auth flow, auth 2.0. Now, so I think the diagram is pretty already pretty filled up, but I'll see if I can uh, clean it up on the way. Okay, so now this is the authorization server here. That's the application which wants access, and somewhere there is a data which needs to be accessed as such. Now, whenever we create the app registration in Active Directory, it basically uh, creates that service principal, which is the representation of the application and the object ID also at the backend. That's the ID of the object at the backend. And then there are many things which needs to be done, like you can give API permissions to the service principal, you can to the app registration, to this applications, you can do API permissions, you can give a graph API access, you can give access on the Azure resources, and so on and so forth. So that is very important from the point of view of controlling what how much access can be done. Then when the consent is going to happen, then that consent needs to be who can give the consent, like can the user give the consent on their own, can the administrator give the consent on their own. And there is another typical problem which is where you have to delegate the access to the users versus the access needs to be delegated to the application. So when we delegate the access to the application, it means the application is going to run at the back end, and there is no human intervention over there, so you cannot, there is nobody to give the consent over there. So then what needs to be done in that scenario? And secondly, when the user needs will sign in over here and you would like the permissions which the user has on the in the application or on Azure to be applicable, then we do the delegated permissions. So this is something which is very important practically for you to understand as well when you design your solutions, or whenever you interact with any customer, or from the certification point of view as well. Now, what is the meaning? So when you get the access token, what is the default life cycle of the token? Like 60 minutes. The default life cycle of the refresh token, 14 hours, 14 days as such. So what's the maximum location time over there? 90 days over there. Then the administrator who is giving who is creating the service principal, can he or she delegate access to somebody else? So all those things are also pretty important to be understood and to be worked with. Then what is application proxy and so on and so forth, in case you would like the application to be accessible out to the outside world with least amount of efforts as such, then how do you deploy, what's the meaning of application proxy, and you work with it. Okay, so okay, yeah, and the basics. Maybe we should have started from the basics first, but let's click on that. So the hierarchy of Azure itself, like uh, management group, then we have resource groups, then we have, sorry, we have management groups, we have subscriptions, resource groups, and resources over there. So how do you manage something like? I would like to. We have two type of roles, right? We have AD roles and we have Azure roles. So the AD roles are not overlapping with Azure roles. Azure roles are applicable on Azure resources. AD roles are applicable on inside Azure AD itself. So and then we have Azure policies as well. So when we talk about policy, we basically understand policies to be applicable on the resources. Like, okay, so let's say I can create the database, but you want me to restrict. You want to restrict me to make the database in only in East US. Then you can do that with Azure policies, right? We have policies. We have security policies in Azure, by which by those security policies you can have the you can say you can have the um, so for example, let's say if you're not aware of what are the best practices, then we have security benchmarks. So apply those initiatives of Azure over there. So this is also needs to be understood, that the hierarchy of Azure, what happens, what is Azure AD, what is Azure B2 B, business to business, what is the meaning of Azure AD B2C as well. So B2 is B2B practically something, or is B2C another directory, and all those questions are also you need to be aware of that. So and then the high availability part, like what's the meaning of regional HA, what's the in milliseconds, what's the latency between the availability zones, how far are the Azure regions from each other, and how do you create any global HA solution. Then on top of it you need some traffic manager, or you need, so then really there is another thought process, that when should we go for traffic manager versus the front door over there. So there is a proper flow diagram from Microsoft on the architect side, which you should be aware of, where based on the you can say based on the protocols, the differentiation has been done. So traffic manager will be used for non-HTTPS scenarios. So for HTTPS scenarios, we have a front door and so on and so forth. So that is something which needs to be which you guys needs to be aware of. Okay, so in a nutshell, this is what the new certification is all about. These type of areas you should be aware of. These type of topics you should be uh, aware of. And the difficulty of the certification, as I was already mentioning, is uh, not very high, but definitely this is something which you should be preparing for. And the best location will be MS Learn over here. Okay, I'll just see there are a few questions in the chat. Okay, object ID versus service principal. Okay, so service principal is the representation of the application in the Active Directory. Now, when you create anything in Azure, everything is one object at the backend. So whenever you so that object which gets created is having object ID. In API calls, at time we need the object ID to get information. So service principal is not comparable with object ID. The principal is just the object which gets created at the backend will have the object ID. It's they both are not applicable, not comparable. Okay, so guys, uh, okay, so this is what I had planned for the session. If you have any specific question, you can feel free to ask me those specific question. I will cover them on the way as well. And before we wind up, there is a we I would just like to show you something, and this is where okay. So I'm just gonna look for something in my secondary screen. Okay, so you can join us on Tech Scalable. You can follow the company page over here, and anything which all these sessions, all the events, webinars, and everything which we do, you will be able to be aware of that. You can also follow me as well, but I will recommend you to follow the company page over there to get all the details from all the sessions which are going to happen. And this is the part where we will be doing a little bit of self promotion, right? So there is one session which we are coming up with. So AZ-305 is already open sourced, and we also provide training services to various corporates and individuals as well. So the next batch of AZ-305 is going to start from March 12th, and this session is where we cover all the case studies. All the diagrams which you saw are part of the various discussions or various deployments or various whiteboard designing session which we had across various individuals who were part of the batches and so on and so forth. So everything is hands-on. Everything is as practical as it can be. Uh, uh, we try to we don't waste time. We would like to offer the best services and the you can say the most ROI for the time which is invested. Okay, so that was part of my self promotion, and I'll just take your questions now. Okay, so please think it through. If you have any thoughts, any questions, then let me know. Okay, okay, then I think if there are no more questions, then okay. So please follow us on the company page and follow us on other social media platforms as well. We will we are engaged in a lot of interesting sessions on a weekly basis. And thanks for joining in. Devashish, we will reach out to you. Okay, Rohani, if you would like to close the session. or not, then thank you. Thanks everyone, and hopefully you have a nice time, and we'll be back with more sessions in future. Okay, so I think even if I have skipped few of the questions, and I'll see in the chat window. So if I have skipped any questions, we will also be answering those questions. So you'll get the notification when we answer your questions, right? We will take care of that. Okay, the links of the architecture diagram. I will maybe I'll upload them in one OneDrive, and then I will put them in the on the company page, right? So if you are in, if just subscribe to the join the company page, and then you will get the diagrams as well. I need to upload them, right? I will export them and I'll upload them. I didn't do that. Okay, thanks everyone. Then bye bye. I'll just close the broadcast, and we'll get back to you for your unanswered questions, and you can definitely reach out to me uh, directly as well, and just drop me one message if you have any follow-up question. I'll help you with that. Thanks everyone. Nice uh, have a nice week.